What you are listening to is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in the squared circle. Both parties have agreed to dismiss their cases and have their disputes settled here in our forum, the Turnbuckle Debate.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Turnbuckle Debate. My name is Sneed.
I'm Chad.
I'm Tom, the OG Fit Kid, the staple of the Turnbuckle Debate.
We have two guests with us today, no strangers to the show, from the Pod Foundation, representing CHICK Foley, Seth and Marco. What's up, guys?
What's going on?
Glad to be back.
Always glad to have you fellas on.
I like this is the first time we've had a tag team from the CHICK Foley Show. So this should get
Yes.
Well, Marco's kind of like he's a full-fledged Tavern member now also, so he's kind of got a foot in both camps. So I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know if he's going to roll with me. You know, if we come to odds, he may just flip on me tonight. Dude. It'll be a 4-on-1 situation.
You might have to stare to your back, Seth. Watch out.
I feel like I'm Sting tagging with Ric Flair right here.
Oh no, I'm like Rick Rude, showing up on both shows, WCW, Nitro, and Monday Night Raw. So
One day you're in DX, the next day you're in the NWO. Watch out.
Yeah.
That's how we roll. All right. I think we all know the format. I mean,
yeah, we know the layout. Before we get into that, I guess, like what's going on? I know, Seth, you're in the middle of a move. What's going on with CHICK Foley? Because you guys just released the Pod Warriors, which was an awesome pilot episode to a new kind of spinoff show you guys got.
Yeah, so we're inspired by you guys. We're doing a couple spinoffs. Marco is going to have his own interview-based series coming out here pretty soon with open mic. And then me and Jordan, we got one Pod Wars where we're just kind of taking random topics from wrestling history, wrestling figures and stuff, and just kind of going deep on one topic every couple weeks. So yeah, that's staying real busy on the podcast front, and then life is just kind of crazy for us right now. If you guys can see, I'm not held hostage somewhere. You used to see me in my figure room or in me and Sheena's, like mid-century modern bedroom and stuff. I'm actually in the walk-in closet in our master bedroom right now, though. We're in the process of moving to Tennessee. And the movers came and took all our stuff today. So I'm in an empty house. I showed the fellas a picture before we started. My mic is sitting on a Tide box and my laptop's on some random box from Amazon here in the closet. So yeah, the guys didn't kidnap me and they're not, sticking me in a basement somewhere, forcing me to do podcasts. It's just a temporary setup. And this was the best acoustics in the house because we got the trendy open floor plan downstairs with hardwood. But that means like everything I say, it's freaking echoing like, Andre the Giant or something downstairs. So had to make do.
that's dedication, man.
That is dedication.
That is dedication.
I'm pumped to hear the interview series. And like I said, the Pod Warriors, I thought it was fun to take a trip down memory lane and talk about all the WrestleManias and where you guys had them ranked.
yeah, that was pretty awesome. Yeah, my idea came from you guys too, like the sessions before its inception, when it had the interview base, and then you guys visits the Tavern. And I think that was like kind of like, obviously missing from the overall group. There wasn't really any, interview based shows. Obviously we have Coming Down the Aisle. He, J Bone does his thing with interviews and stuff like that. He mixes it in, but kind of want to do like not just, just people in the community in general.
Right.
Be cosplayers. They could be, they don't have to be like wrestling figure collectors. They could be comic book collectors. They could just be, Twitch people. Like I'm trying to get like as many, different avenues in collecting in this niche that we have on the show. So trying to figure out who the first guest is going to be. That's the hardest.
Right,
you want to come out with like the, a good debut episode. So that's where I'm really like racking my brain. But yeah, I'm hoping it's it's successful in that sense. So
yeah, I look forward to it, man. I love just branching out new content. It's fun.
We love content.
Yeah, definitely.
We love
content. It is king.
All right, fellas. Well, we're here to do a little debating. Are you guys ready to get into that?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So our first topic of the evening. Surfer Sting or Crow Sting?
I'll jump on this. Man, I'm a Stinger, man. I grew up a Stinger. That was my guy. When I was a little, my earliest wrestling memory is Andre the Giant choking Bob Uecker. So, but my other early wrestling memory was going to the local Civic Center and watching Sting and Ric Flair in a cage match. So, like I was watching both on VHS tape. I was watching WWE, WCW. I was watching Sting, Flair, all of those guys. I was an Ultimate Warrior and Sting kid.
Blade Runners.
Yeah, the Blade Runner. Had no idea that they were a tag team at that time. But man, the Surfer Sting, like it hits me so hard in my early fandom. I think Sting's feud with Rick Rude and the Dangerous Alliance is one of the most underrated year feuds. Like that, it was a very small run. I believe it was like 92, maybe late 91.
Late 91, 92.
Yeah, that is one of my all-time favorite feuds. But I mean, the Crow Sting like changed the business when that change happened and he went away. And for people that weren't watching week to week, man, when he first showed up in those rafters, and completely different Crow look, you're thinking, what's going on here? And then for weeks, he pops up in the crowd. They really drug that out. The guy didn't speak for, I'm wanting to say 18 months, no talking. That was so like, that was when I was a teenager, and that pulled me in so much more. So even though you can't have the weight of the Crow Sting turn, like him shifting from Surfer Sting to Crow, you can't have that without the Surfer Sting. I feel like I gotta go. I feel like it's the stereotypical choice, but I gotta go Crow Sting.
Yeah, I agree. I think you nailed it, man. I think Crow Sting is just one of the all-time great storylines. As many crappy WCW booking decisions as they were, you really got to hand it to them. The level of restraint they had in milking that thing for a year plus. But I think you nailed it. I think the reason Crow Sting is so incredibly just iconic and beloved is because of how good Surfer Sting was. Like whatever time has there been where somebody has had that big of a character change and hasn't gone from babyface to heel or heel to babyface. He literally stayed a face the whole time. And just completely changed his character. But I think it's because Surfer Sting was so universally beloved. That's what made Crow Sting such a big deal and such a huge success.
For me, Surfer Sting.
I love it.
I'm going Surfer Sting all the way because honestly, I don't feel like WCW would have made it to where they were if it wasn't for Surfer Sting.
You're right.
Franchise.
Yeah.
He was that company. He had that company on his back.
Before Hogan. I mean, before Hogan showed up in what, 94?
94.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, dude, Sting was the guy.
Surfer Sting, he was the hero. He was the superhero. He was the one that drew the kids in. He had WCW on his back. I will say Crow Sting is in my opinion, the best gimmick change of all time.
Yeah.
But we don't have the weight of WCW or the eyes on WCW if it wasn't for Sting carrying it through all those bullshit gimmicks in the early 90s. He's what did it. So for me, it was Surfer Sting. And I mean, the nostalgia part of it for me too. Surfer Sting was my guy as a kid. I mean, I had him on birthday cakes. I had him hanging on my wall.
And what was cooler than in the early 90s when they did that gimmick where it seemed like almost every week they were pulling out a mystery box to show to Sting, and then Cactus Jack or Medusa or Rick Rude comes out and didn't Luger clip his knee?
Clips his knee. Medusa's seducing him on Clash of the Champions.
Another point to kind of go along with Sneed, at a certain point, the bell's got to ring. Almost all of Sting's classic matches were a Surfer Sting. His battles with Vader, with Ric Flair, with Rick Rude, like Chad said. He had a pretty good match with Bret Hart. He had a good match with Scott Hall. I can't really think of too many other memorable matches he had as the Crow Sting. The Crow Sting was all about the presence, the look, and the gimmick. As far as in-ring goes, Surfer Sting had classics. He had straight bangers, like pay-per-view after pay-per-view.
Dude, even the Cactus Jack match at Beach Blast was phenomenal.
Yep.
So good. Tom?
Let's see.
Marco?
Marco, go first. I'll speak.
I'm gonna go with
the last word.
Yeah, but I know, right? Exactly. You know what? Then you go, Tom. I want the last word. No, I'm joking.
I mean, you could go. I mean,
No, I'm joking. I'm gonna go with Surfer Sting as well. Mainly because if you guys listen to the show, my father grew up in the South. He's born in Mississippi by way of Arkansas. So most of pretty much all my family on his side is Midwest down south. And when we would visit, that's what we would watch. We'd watch NWA. We watched WCW. Sting was huge. My cousins were in love with Sting. Like face paint, they would had homemade belts. They would do matches and all that. Like obviously all the things that kids did and stuff like that. So Surfer Sting always stayed with me in that sense. And I always took the Crow Sting as kind of that was like a dark time for WCW, kayfabe dark time.
Yeah.
Obviously they were rolling in dough, but it was like the Crow Sting was like the shedding of those colors, like those bright colors, the blonde hair, all that stuff. And the Crow Sting was just like he just got rid of all that. And that was a different type of Sting. It wasn't the same Sting, obviously, that we knew before. And we didn't hear what, like you guys spoke. He stayed quiet for 18 months. We didn't hear him talk. And when he was Surfer Sting, he was cutting promos left and right. He was, he wasn't doing the say your praise, eat your vitamins type of thing. But, he was that childhood hero to me.
Yeah.
And to a lot of kids and stuff like that. And Crow Sting, I mean, for nostalgia reasons, not really a childhood hero. More like an anti-hero, essentially. Right. And I love Crow Sting because I love the Crow movie with Brandon Lee.
Mm-hmm.
So I love
Great
the fact
movie.
that they, of R.I.P. Scott Hall for bringing that to his attention and actually bringing that to life. And a lot of people would say, the Crow Sting is the Sting they would pick because now that's the longest running that he's, I think, been with that gimmick.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was Surfer Sting for like 8 years. It's been 25 years since he turned into a Crow.
So, and that's what most people know him as Crow Sting. So I wouldn't be mad if someone said, Crow Sting is better than Surfer Sting if they didn't grow up in that era and get to see him as Surfer Sting. But yeah, long story short, Surfer Sting is my choice.
Tom's got to break the tie.
Yeah. Has anyone, real quick before Tom goes, has anyone ever got known for their second big character? I'm not talking about like Kane playing Isaac Yankem. I'm talking like they were
of that magnitude.
Two separate characters, like Undertaker and American Badass, two very different, but I still feel like the Dead Man is bigger than American Badass.
I think the only one I think that really compares off the top of my head is Hulk Hogan and Hollywood Hogan. But again, that's going from babyface to a heel. Right. So as far as staying the same alignment, I don't think there's anything I can think of where somebody has shifted the character but still kept the same fan response,
Yeah. I can't think of anyone that's ever they're known because usually that first big character is what everyone kind of goes to. But this is like, I think everyone goes to Crow now.
Yeah.
See, this was tough for me because, as you guys know, I wasn't the biggest WCW guy. I knew Surfer Sting less than I knew Crow Sting because, Monday Night Wars, I started tuning in a little bit to WCW and following what was going on and watching the pay-per-view scrambled a little bit. So, but I'm doing some research. I read that post on the Chick Foley show the other day. There are a lot of excellent posts in that Facebook group about it in that discussion. And watching that promo Mike made me watch a couple of weeks ago, damn, that guy could cut a promo and get you excited. Like he really pumped me up there. And I've watched a couple more little Sting stuff, over the last couple of days, and I really need to do a deep dive because I feel like I really missed out on not watching Sting throughout his whole career because I love him now in AEW. But it goes back to kind of what Seth said, like talking about Hogan. He's the only other guy we could say which version was better, Hulkamania or Hollywood Hogan. But again, if you don't have the first, the second doesn't mean nearly as much.
Right.
So Surfer Sting set that whole thing up. I mean, I'm kind of torn, but after watching some of Surfer Sting, that guy was electric. I loved what I've seen of him. I really need to deep dive. I'm going to pick Surfer Sting because without Surfer Sting, Crow Sting doesn't mean as much. And it's just, and it's just the same thing, like what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's just, both amazing characters. But Surfer Sting seems to, like you said, how important he was to WCW during that time period.
Yeah, Surfer Sting was
Flair
almost
on
like
for a few years during that time period.
Yeah.
Sting literally was WCW.
Surfer Sting was almost like WCW's hybrid answer to the Warrior and Hogan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like, it's like
greatly put. That's so
Yeah.
true. So, yeah,
It was funny that he was the franchise for WCW because he was honestly the most WWF style performer that they had
Oh yeah.
during that time. Tom, you're always such a contrarian. I just knew you were going to say Joker Sting and just leave it as a stalemate, man.
Oh, Joker Sting. That's actually a really good one too.
Yeah. God, my least favorite by a mile. Oh. Yeah, I mean, where do you guys stack him now? Just in the pantheon of like long running wrestlers who've done the thing. Like, I feel like he kind of tapered out. Like, he came back in WWE. It was pretty awesome just to see him in WWE, but I feel like it was a little bit mishandled. And then the unfortunate injury with Seth Rollins, but now he comes back and he's putting on these wild matches in AEW. Like, where does he fall in the legacy of like the greats?
To me, so my Mount Rushmore of wrestling is Cena, Flair, Austin, and Hogan. I kind of base it on like overall star power, not necessarily my favorites, because obviously Bret Hart would be on there. I put Sting on that next tier, like sitting right below those guys, like him, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker. I kind of put them on that tippy top, like basically the top level of guys who didn't quite break through to like mainstream like stardom and stuff, you know. So I put him as, you know, if the guys I named for my Mount Rushmore are like tier 1, he's on tier 1A right there with the rest of the all-time legends.
Yeah, he's a top 10er for me for sure.
Yeah, easy.
I think I'd even put him in my top 5.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, I wouldn't argue with anyone if they wanted to throw him in their top 5 as well. He could flip flop definitely.
I mean, there's something to be said. Like, I'm a huge Taker fan. Like, Taker is number 4 on my Rushmore, and I mean, Sting's right now knocking on the door. He's putting on matches still, and he's I think he's like 5 or 6 years older than Taker. Like, right?
He's older than my dad. That's what's crazy. That's what I always picture when I see Sting doing this crazy stuff. I'm like, that's my dad. My dad should be out there jumping off the rafters and stuff.
He kind of has a stinger splash in the corner.
He has the benefit of like Kiss, the rock band, where the fact that he has that makeup, it kind of hides his age.
Yeah.
It helps him continue longevity.
Yeah. He's smart. He wears like the long sleeve shirts.
It's a good look, man. I like
gloves. So you
Yeah,
can't see like really anything.
Yeah.
Next thing he's gonna do is turtlenex.
Yeah.
That's it.
As far as personal
Definitely
favorites,
be able to tell.
Sting's top 5 with me. It's Brett, Shawn, Seth Rollins, Sting, and Scott Hall. That's my top 5 all-time favorites, man. So I love the dude more than anything. I just think he's kind of, like I said, just right below that, the true legends that like everybody knows.
Yeah.
You know, I have a picture on my wall over here that you guys can't see it, but there's probably about 10 different Sting faces on it. It has 10 different face paints, and every one of those face paints gives me a different nostalgic feeling.
Yeah.
So that for me, that's what solidifies for me that he's just one of the greatest of all time.
The American flag paint, the Wolfpack paint.
I don't know if I can get it over there.
Hell yeah.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
I mean,
If you guys ever get a chance to meet Sting at a convention or something, definitely do it. He's one of the coolest guys that we've had a chance to meet. He was super personable. Talked to me and Sheena for a couple minutes. Yeah, we got a really cool picture with the Stinger at WrestleMania 33.
Yeah, I'm at Starcast out in Vegas.
Yeah, he's going to be, I think in July, he's going to be around my neck of the woods. So probably going to go visit him and have him sign my AEW figures.
He's a legend, man.
I know. You know, I will say this too. If you on that topip, if you have the opportunity to meet somebody that you want to meet them, because you never know when you don't, or you're not going to have that chance. I met Scott Hall at Starcast also, and he was the absolute greatest person that I've ever had a chance to meet.
Yeah, he's cool as hell too.
Yeah,
it's a great point, Sneak, because I had the chance to meet Piper. He was going to be like 45 minutes from me with a meet and greet in a Piper's Pit, and I didn't do it because I was just lazy.
45 minutes. Boot him. Can we just boot Tom? Dude? Like, I don't want to come in and start calling shots. Boot him.
I'm not doing that again. But going back, when I went to Dynamite and I sat in the second row and Sting was literally right in front of me, I was in awe. I'm like, there's a legend right there.
Yeah.
And a guy who, like I said, I didn't know all of Sting, but I knew he was a legend. And by that point, I knew more of him than I did, in the past. And I was just in awe, like, oh my God, there's Sting, literally 10 feet for me.
You need to give up your entire Roddy Piper collection.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're,
sell it.
Yeah, you do.
you're done, man.
Just sell
Send it
it.
to Marco.
Yeah, give it to me.
Yeah, Sting still as over as ever, man. We were at Dynamite here in Norfolk back in November, and Norfolk, Virginia. This is deep NWA Mid-Atlantic territory, and when he came out, it was a pop. Like that was the first Dynamite after Hangman won the belt, so obviously he got a huge pop being a Virginia native. Second biggest pop of the night was easy when Sting got in the ring and did the whole chest beat and gimmick stuff.
yeah.
People were losing their minds.
Dude, when he came out on Dynamite at Winter is Coming, I legit popped like a little kid.
Yeah.
Like, because no one really knew. There was little rumors like months prior, but nothing really ever gained steam. So when he stepped out, it was a legit surprise. Still has it, man.
Yeah, we were actually. I think we recorded one of our episodes at the same night.
We were
I think
recording. That was one time because that was the night that Mox and Kenny Omega fought.
Yeah,
and Sheena was actually having surgery the next day, so we're like, let's do something easy. We'll just watch the last hour of Dynamite and do some live commentary on it.
Yeah.
And like 4 minutes after, we're like in the middle of doing our social media plugs, and it's like, oh shit, Sting is out here.
That's what we live for as wrestling fans. Like we knew, Cody had posted that, meme when we found out that Sting was released from WWE or it wasn't under a Legends contract anymore.
Yeah.
We knew he might show up, but when you don't know when somebody shows up, there's nothing greater in wrestling. It's like the whole Malachi thing.
Malachi.
Like we, Bryan Danielson, we knew he was headed there, and it's still excited when he does show up. But when you don't know, the pop is just more authentic.
It's the same thing like Cody going at Mania. Like we all kind of, the writing was on the wall. Punk in Chicago, the writing was on the wall. But when you get a true, like you didn't see it coming debut, that's the best.
Yep.
Also, my final thought before we move on is Surfer Sting's Blue Pants Galoob is on my Mount Rushmore of wrestling figures.
That's still the best Sting figure. I don't have a name, which shame on me being as much of a wrestling figure historian as I am. Not even just the Stinger. Whoever was doing the sculpts for those Galoobs is a freaking artiste, man. Like all of those. So I went back and pieced together a Galoob set over the last year. All of those face sculpts still hold up so well, man. Those are like basically little mini sculptures, man. It's insane.
My three favorite from the Galoob line, which was Galoob and Hasbro's is what we grew up on. Sting, Barry Windham, Brian Pillman. Those are my three favorite Galoobs. They're great.
Yeah. I like Brian Pillman, Sting, and then Tom Zink, man. The Z-Man. I think it was just, obviously, dude, super handsome guy, rest in peace, Tom Zink. I think it was the pose on that figure and just the look of it. That dude was pushed sky high in my little fig fed as a kid. I don't know why. That thing was just super playable. He was like such a baby face. Like, he was like one of my top 2 or 3, good guys in my fig fed as a kid.
Shout out to the Arn Anderson too. The Arn Anderson fig is great.
He was perfect. He could hit a perfect DDT or the spine buster, either one, man.
Exactly.
Those spine busters were unbeaten as a Galoob.
The worst posed Galoob that I hated in my fig fed because I couldn't do any moves with it was the Ron Simmons.
Yeah, Ron Simmons
had
is
his
kind of
arm.
weird.
His one arm was like molded to his body, but Butch Reed, phenomenal. Great action on that.
I could talk lubes all day.
They were great. The other great thing about Galoobs, if you had a sibling that was close in age, those things made awesome projectiles. Like those things were so they were working stiff. That was strong style as far as like toy fight. It was like wax with Hot Wheels track or launching a Galoob as a projectile. That was like the two weapons of mass destruction as a kid.
That Sting Galoob is the only Galoob that I own.
Wow,
it's a good one.
Yeah.
All right, guys, any final thoughts before we wrap up and move on?
Go watch some Sting stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Any of it. All right, so our next topic of the evening. Are name changes helpful or hurtful when moving to the main roster? Now, this is the one that you guys brought, Seth, Marco, so I'll defer to you guys for this one.
So I think they're rarely helpful. I can't really think of a time where the name change has really benefited someone. I think they can be really hurtful, especially if it's somebody like Pete Dunne, for instance. Like Pete Dunne is already well established in the WWE universe, to use their own kind of corporate speak. Dude has had legendary matches down in NXT. He had one of the longest title runs in history with the NXT UK Championship. He's already, like I said, he's already established. He's been in the Royal Rumble before. So why are you suddenly changing his name to Butch?
Right.
I don't know. I don't get it. I can't defend this one, and I'm a WWE apologist. I can't defend the name change thing though.
Yeah, I mean from what I gathered, obviously like there's the business side of things where a lot of those guys that came in at the time, like I said, we kind of talked about this on the Raw down during Triple H's run of NXT. He's bringing in a lot of indie guys, and he was letting them keep their names essentially. So like that's how you knew them. Those weren't he didn't change their names when they came in, except for I think obviously Finn Balor, but Shinsuke Nakamura. Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, like all those guys kept their real names. So the move up to the main roster, I think it's to save them from losing their name, because once the thing is WWE owns your name, they own your likeness, they own everything. So once you sign to that main roster, that's theirs. So I think now they're trying to not do that to people. Essentially, I think they learn their lesson. And it is a business, and I think when they do sign on, they know it's a business. And I think if there wasn't an NXT that we were watching like for years, and people just showed up with that name, and you knew them as that name, like in the Indies here and there, you really weren't invested, I don't think it would matter as much. But since we invested so much time into these people before they hit the main roster, and we come so accustomed to that name and the brand that they bring with them, and then they completely change it once they hit the main roster, I think it hurts them. But so my thing is, I think it hurts them because of NXT being like on TV and us being invested in that. But the other part about that is I think now the influx of new talent when they're coming in for NXT 2.0, I think those names are going to stay. Like, I don't think you'll see like Walter was Walter during the first NXT 1.0. So they're going to change his name. A Braun Breaker, he's going to be Braun Breaker when he gets to the main roster. I don't think they're changing it to Steiner because that's his real name. Right. They did the same thing to what's her name? Raquel Gonzalez.
Yep.
They changed her because that's her actual name. Her name is Raquel Gonzalez. They don't if she signs on and keeps her name, there's a chance that they can keep her name, and when she leaves, that's theirs. She just leaves as Raquel, essentially. She doesn't have her last name anymore. And they got that lesson from Cody Rhodes. He fought forever to get his Rhodes name. He was Cody in the Indies. He wasn't Cody Rhodes.
Right.
People forget that. He was Cody that whole time.
Yeah, they did a workaround where they would say Cody and Brandy Rhodes.
Yes, yeah. So he didn't own that name. So like the WWE legit owns your name when you sign on. So I think they're learning from that. That's why these name changes are happening. And yes, they do suck. I agree with everything in that sense, but in a business sense, I think it definitely helps them out when and if they do leave the company.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Marco. Like from a business, I get why they do it. Like it's Vince wanting to own it.
Yeah,
and it does help talent a little bit. Now, like a Cody Rhodes, they would own that name. But if you're going by your shoot name, like some people do, I don't think they can own your shoot name. If it's your like.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they couldn't own Cody Runnels. But
yeah, no, definitely not. No.
Right. But like I do think there's an element of the wrestling fan base jumping on this a little too much. Like it's one of those hot topics. Whenever they change someone's name, instantly social media lights up with them shitting on WWE for it. Sometimes I do feel like it's pretty justified. But sometimes it's like, what did you expect? At a certain point, I'm like, of course they changed his name. Like, why is everyone like surprised by this? I think the one that really bothered me, at least in recent memory, is Walter. Because that just bothered me. And it's not even like either name is this great name that got taken away. They're both kind of silly names. But the fact that he built Walter, like Marco kind of referenced, like that was his name on the Indies prior to coming in, and he built this allure and kind of changed the whole way you look at the name Walter. Like Walter to me took on a different air. Yeah, Walter's a goofy name. You would think a nerdy kid, but once he took that name, it became something else to me. Like it held weight to it. And when they changed him to Gunther, I'm with Seth on this. I don't think it ever truly helps them with a name change. I think it only can hurt them because you're pretty much washing away an allure or a vibe or a reputation that you've built with them with this name, and fans have become accustomed to this name. And then when you flip it, it's almost like you're not starting at ground zero because you know who this person is, but you are like,
you're taking credibility away.
Yeah. And there's this, you're making people have to buy in again, at least from a little piece. I don't know, man. I think it hurts. I think it hurts them.
I mean, Gunther is having to deal with Walter Chance when he comes out now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I don't got an issue with it if they change the name when they first sign, right? Like I never had a problem with them changing Prince Devitt to Finn Balor, right? Because they did it when he came in. Same thing with making Kenta Hideo Itami. Going back earlier than that, Seth Rollins was well established as Tyler Black in Ring of Honor in the Indies. I don't hear anybody really complaining about that, but it's the fact once they've already exist within the WWE universe, and then you just randomly like go in and like you're create a player on WWE 2K and you just go in and edit some stuff and then expect us to just accept it. It's a tough pill to swallow, man.
I'm with you. Yeah. Like that's where it gets like if you bring them into the company and change them, fine, I get that. But it's odd when you build them within your own system, then you change them. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
Pete Dunne's been here for almost 5 years. We've had Pete Dunne figures. Same thing with Walter. We've had Walter action figures. It's not like these guys were kicking around in NXT for 6 months and we were like, hey, you know what? Let's do a soft reset and give them a new name, image, and likeness. Like they're just straight up
these
like
champions.
They've held gold.
Yeah.
And one that bothers me too, and they don't do this a ton, but this is even worse than just a straight up name change. The thing that fires me up and makes me mad more than anything is when they do the name change and then they act like this person is completely new. I think of Piper Niven and Doudrop.
Yeah.
They acted like Doudrop is this new person we've never seen before. It's like, dude, if you were watching NXT UK, Piper Niven was putting on bangers, and you're trying to tell us that she never existed. Like, that's when I feel like you're treating your fan base like they're idiots.
And Piper Niven's a good name, and Doudrop's a horrible name. Like, I hear the name Piper Niven. I see her. Obviously, she's got a unique body style compared to most of the female wrestlers. Like, that sticks out to me. But you call her Doudrop, I'm confused about this stupid name. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
I
don't know.
And I think a lot of times it obviously it does hurt too, because I think a lot of people want to they feel like obviously they're losing their creative freedom and they want to leave. Tony Storm. I mean, I'm not. I don't know the rumors. I'm just me making them in my head. They probably came to her and said, "Hey, you need to have a name change. You can't be Tony Storm. You could be like Tony, you could be Storm, you could be something else." And she was just probably like, "No, that's my name. I'm keeping it." And that's one of those instances. Same thing with Shotzi Blackheart. They dropped her last name, Blackheart. I didn't see that as like. I mean, they probably see that as something negative, which it isn't. They changed her whole gimmick.
It's silly.
Riddle's just Riddle now.
Riddle, Theory, Austin Theory recently. But again, that was his name in the Indies. Austin Theory was his name when he came into WWE. So,
and here's another example of they treat us like we're dumb. The whole here's the argument behind why they dropped Austin off of Theory. Well, we don't want to, we don't want anyone confused with Steve Austin, and we want to drop that Austin and just give him come on, dude. We're confused
between Adam Page and Adam Cole because they have the same first name.
Right? Like, are we dumb?
Vince is crazy about this kind of stuff, man.
The guy is over. There's no need to change their name. Like when you get him established under that name and you call him up and you change it, like the Pete Dunne to Bush. That's just terrible. But I can see if a guy needs a gimmick change. But these people that they've done it to don't need any change. They've been done so well. But if there's a guy who's just like kind of mid-card in NXT and they want to bring him up and give him a new gimmick to try and do something different because he's not over, that would make sense. But they haven't done it that way.
Yep.
They've just done a total opposite. They ruin these guys that are over.
Right.
Like, why ruin what's not broken? You don't have to fix what's not broken. Go with it. It's making you money as it is. Why are you going to try to reestablish it? You're making yourself do more work at that point. It's ridiculous.
I think it helps.
You think it helps?
I'm just kidding.
I was like,
I'm
whoa.
just-
Hey, we need to scour like between our two Facebook groups or our IG followers. We need to find somebody who's like all about these name changes. Who's like
There has
living
to
for
be
these
someone
name
out there.
changes. Get them on here to defend them.
No,
I
there's
they do
definitely-
drive interest. You know what I mean? In some ways, I wonder if Vince, being the crazy old bastard he is, maybe he knows like this is a great way to troll because. Anytime somebody gets a name change, they end up in the top 10 trending topics on Twitter for a
Yeah.
night.
It's
Like
smart.
it's a quick way to generate some interest in somebody. I don't know if they're thinking that deep into it or if it's that nefarious, but it definitely causes a spike of interest, good or bad.
It gets
when
people
somebody gets a name
talking.
change.
No talking is the worst kind of thing. So if you get people talking, I guess it's not a bad thing if you look at it that way. And I
Yeah.
wonder if they're smart enough to think that way, but I wouldn't think they are.
But is it
Yeah.
worth it for that incremental push just for that one time?
That's the
And then
thing.
you have to deal with it for that extended period?
Yeah, because wrestling news moves so fast
Yeah.
that like you get that sudden pop and then it's on to the next thing.
Yep.
To me, WWE is such a machine right now with all their various corporate deals, and they're raking in so much cash that's completely disconnected from the actual quality of the product week to week and month to month. I think all these creative decisions are just Vince having fun with his toys, man. They're the same as us when we're 8 or 9 years old playing with our figures and stuff. And like I said, I got Tom Zink at the top of the card, man. I think
They get-
aside from, Roman Reigns and anything happening in the Roman verse, I think the rest of it is just Vince toying with his little playthings.
yeah.
There's even smaller little things that bug me too, like Happy Corbin. Like that bugs
And
me.
Cat Moss.
Ugh, I
Sad
can't-
Corbin when he was Sad Corbin at one point, and
And then he was
Yeah.
King Corbin and then
King
Baron Corbin before
Yep.
that. It's like,
Yep.
Paul Corbin.
Low key, I've said this on the Chick Foley show. Let me say it here in case for the people that are exclusively Turnbuckle Tavern listeners, just so they know I'm in on it early. Madcap Moss can go. That dude has improved a ton in the last
Oh,
year
yeah.
in the ring. He's been putting on some bangers. I think, now he's broken away from Corbin. If he gets a good gimmick change, I think he could be a real breakout star over the next year.
just call him Moss.
I thought the same thing. I thought he was entertaining. He popped up on like the WrestleMania pre-show panel.
Yeah,
just
dropping the
Yeah.
bad dad jokes and stuff. That was
I was like,
infectious, man.
yeah, I was like, I don't, why do people hate this guy? He's semi-entertaining.
He's been down in NXT for like 6 years, so he's a polished product, man. He's
Yeah.
put on some good matches in ring, man. So I'm hoping he gets a good gimmick, and I think he could be. I don't think he's going to be a WrestleMania main eventer, but I think he could be a really really strong mid carder
Yeah,
for
definitely.
WWE.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts before we move on?
No.
All right. So our final topic of the evening. Seth Rollins, overrated or underrated?
Oh,
I think I'll start on this. All right, so I'll give a quick intro again for the people who aren't loyal Chick Foley Show listeners. Again, search Chick Foley Show anywhere you find podcasts. Seth is my dude. It's not just because we share the same first name. I took about a 10-year break from wrestling after WrestleMania 20. I kind of just put my wrestling fanhood up on a shelf for a little while, and I didn't come back to it until the WWE Network came out, which was in early 2014. And I got that originally just to go back and watch the old stuff and kind of just, relive all the nostalgia and watch the documentaries. But I was still, it was free. All the current pay-per-views like WrestleMania and all that stuff was free, right? And so I would watch those. I kind of just have them on the background as I was doing other stuff. But I started getting intrigued by the current product. And I said, you know what? Let me get back into this. And the first episode of Raw that I watched live was in over 10 years was the night that Seth Rollins turned on the Shield. And you can go back in my Twitter, man. I remember tweeting. This was my first wrestling related tweet in forever. I tweeted out, "Oh, I'm kind of digging this Seth Rollins heel turn." So, like at that night, I just kind of said, "All right, this is going to be my dude that I like ride with." And I was there. I was in the house at WrestleMania 31, less than a year later. Saw him win the belt, and he's been my guy ever since. So, to me, I think he's properly rated. I've said on our show, I think if Roman is this era's John Cena, I think Seth is the Randy Orton, the guy hanging just below the very top guy. can do interesting stuff in the mid card, and anytime they want, they can heat him up and put him back in the main event. So I'm going to say he's not over or underrated. I think he's kind of properly rated right where he's at.
That's a very interesting take. I don't, when you put it that way, I would agree that he's properly rated because he's not on a Shawn Michaels level of matches. But this character he's doing now is by far my favorite Seth Rollins we've ever seen.
Yeah.
I love everything about him. He puts on good matches every time, but he's not a 5-star match guy every time. But comparing him to Orton is actually perfect. I didn't even think of it that way. I kind of like it because he's not the top guy. But he'll put on a great match. He'll put on very solid matches, but he's not on that top level for me. But again, I love this Seth. I love what he's been doing lately. He's a good match guy. So yeah, he's not underrated, but yeah, I almost was going to say he was overrated, but when going by Seth's scale, I would say properly rated.
Yeah, the knee injury, he was never the same after the knee injury, man. You got to go back and watch 2015 Rollins. He was on the path to be, like you said, at that this era's Shawn Michaels, but he's gotten back to maybe like 95% of what he was pre knee injury, and it just hasn't been the same in ring. So, but yeah, I just love the dude, man. So you're not gonna hear me say anything bad about him.
Here's Seth Rollins was by far my favorite of the Shield, by far. And I thought within the Shield, he was kind of the third man of the group. Like, as far as like from fan perspective, I felt like he was the third guy. So when he turned and kind of saddled up to Triple H and the Authority, I was honestly shocked that he was the guy they were deciding to push. I was like, really? That's because at the time we didn't know really. They were all good guys, but I just felt like he hadn't separated himself as like, this is the guy that should get the turn. This is the guy who should cash in at 31. Like it didn't feel like that, but I loved Seth. My thing is, he underrated? No way. Is he overrated? Maybe. Has he ever been in a big story? I think the best Seth Rollins my favorite Seth Rollins was the Authority Seth Rollins. Like I thought that was his best heel work. I loved all of that. But when I look at Seth, has he ever truly been in a situation where he was carrying his storyline solely by himself? Like his most over moments for me, he's been attached with groups. He's been attached with the Shield. He's been attached with the Authority. He's been attached with what was the Messiah, the Monday Night Messiah. Didn't he have some underlings, AOP, Buddy Murphy and those guys? And I thought they pumped the brakes on that a little too. I thought they had legs where they could have really stretched out the Buddy Murphy thing. All of that. I was excited about that storyline. I think now he's kind of floundering to me. Like, I like what he's doing, but he's not like, I just think he could be the guy. And I think I would say underrated by the way WWE is handling him.
They're using him as almost like a comedy act right now. I agree with you. He's good at it, but yeah, it doesn't feel like a main event act right now. He's a main event wrestler working a mid-card gimmick right now, it seems like.
To me, he is your guy. Like three guys, him, Roman, Lesnar. Like those, to me, those are your three. They should be at the top of the card, and he's kind of being a little too goofy for me right now. I know some people love that Vince McMahon office angle. I hated that shit. I just thought, to me,
I like Seth as an evil heel or as never say die babyface. This isn't my favorite, even though it is high quality. He's doing really well at the role they're asking him to play. It's not my personal favorite.
Yeah. So I just think, like, the way I see him, I guess I would say maybe he's underrated by the way they're handling him, because I think he could be way more. But there's another part of me where he's a little bit overrated just based off of what they've given him. Like, I don't feel like what they've given him has matched up to what he could be doing. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle, man. Like I don't think he's truly underrated, but I don't think he's truly
I
overrated.
think he was kind of derailed after winning the championship last time, and then they started pairing him with Becky. It just
Ruined.
They
terrible.
botched that. He was so beloved. I mean, go back to WrestleMania 35. The crowd went nuts when he beat Brock Lesnar for the belt, and then he got stuck in his first feud was with Baron Corbin, which he had go away heat at that point, and then they paired him with Becky Lynch for whatever reason. Even though obviously they're in love, married couple, beautiful young daughter, it did not translate on screen. Whether it was the scripting or the way it was booked, the charisma did not come through, or like the chemistry didn't come through on screen. And people turned against him. It did lead to what I think is probably Seth's best like one night performance. Go back to SummerSlam 19. Brock Lesnar had won the belt back from Seth. The booking for Seth had been so bad that even though he was the babyface, he got booed by the Toronto crowd coming out at SummerSlam 2019. There was almost no pop for his entrance. And then when the music died out, when they were waiting for Brock to come in, the crowd started booing. But by the end of that match, his performance was so strong that the crowd was going ape shit, and they popped like crazy when he curb stomped Brock and beat him clean in the ring for the belt. I think Seth's been probably more than just about anybody else. I think he's been a victim of the poor booking of WWE, because even though they've given him a lot of success, he could have been so much better with proper booking.
That's exactly. I think of the Becky thing and the Bray match. I mean, that Bray match and the Becky thing almost it put him in a hole, man, that he had to really fight to dig out of.
I don't know why they ever put that they killed two people with that whole series of matches. Because one, it killed Seth, even though after he had fought back to get his babyface love back from the crowd, and then it killed the Fiend. The Fiend should have never been close to the WWE Championship, especially not 2 months after debuting. That was the best act ever, and he didn't need the belt. The Fiend was like early 90s Undertaker, man. Like, he's a special attraction. He can be off doing his own thing in the Fiend verse. Like, there was really no reason why the Fiend should even been interested in being the champion. Oh, I still get so mad about that, man, just thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, the way that I went at it is what Chad had said. I feel like he's underrated by the way that he's booked. I think after the first initial title run too, I think that hurt him, because I did not enjoy the run that he did with Cena. The Cena after he won the belt, I didn't like those matches. I think he could be so much more, man. I think he's a top guy, and I think he's booked silly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say he's underrated. I'm not going to say he's overrated, because I've personally never heard that talk of him being overrated or even read it anywhere. He doesn't. For me, I think he should be put in the same, like, as far as like talent, should be definitely put in like the same light as like he had that feud with like Will Ospreay, and like in the same vein as Kenny Omega and all those guys. Like, he definitely has that skill set. Whether or not, I mean, I think that's like it's give or take. Like, you could say he didn't have those type of matches, but I think if you even go back to like what was it, 2012, when he entered in the WWE and the FCW, essentially, he's put on bangers, especially in FCW, then into NXT, him being the first ever NXT champion. Definitely go back and watch all those matches. Like, early Seth Rollins is fun. He's still coming off the Tyler Black type of stuff. So he has the range to do all that stuff. So you get to see his full potential back then. I think he was able to do it a little bit when he was with the Authority and stuff like that, but not as much. You put him in the ring with John Cena, you're not going to get. Unless see, that's the thing with AJ Styles. Like, I was going to say, you're not going to get that out of John Cena, but it really depends on who you put him in the ring with. So, right. John Cena, for instance, 5-star match with CM Punk on Monday Night Raw. I think everyone knows that. I think everyone's seen that match. And I think that was his first ever 5-star match.
Dude, Cena's matches with Kevin Owens were fucking great.
Yeah, exactly. So
I thought Cena and Seth Rollins at SummerSlam 2015 was pretty good, aside from the stupid ending with Jon Stewart interfering.
Yeah. So like, yeah. And again, AJ Styles and John Cena, you put them two in the ring. Like, you can argue that he had more 5-star matches with AJ Styles. You put him in the ring with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins isn't as seasoned as an AJ Styles or a CM Punk, essentially. So you're not going to get that. You're not going to get those, like, that 5-star match from Cena or Seth Rollins, them being in the ring together, because you're looking at kind of Seth Rollins to carry the action, because he's obviously the more athletic guy, we'll say, in that sense. So I think he's underrated in that sense. I don't think he's actually been able to show his full potential on the main roster. I think like I said, I think you have to go back into the NXT days when he was doing his singles run, and then into the Shield stuff, and I think you'll see like the actual like full potential of Seth Rollins. So, but yeah, he's an enigma, man. When it comes to he's just like he's definitely a star. I mean, they push him to the moon and everything. It's just something where I think it's Tom might be right. It might be the Becky thing. It might be because he's attached to Becky. They're not letting him they're not letting the reins loose essentially and letting him.
They don't want to let that one couple get too powerful in the WWE universe.
It's not. I'm not saying that she's holding like, hey, I don't want him doing that type of stuff. I'm thinking they're just putting him in that. They're putting him in her limelight, where she's like kind of like this big, huge star that trying to push him in that same direction, and that's not him. He's the worker guy. He's a guy that you put in the ring and he's going to put on banger matches. He's not the I mean, obviously he's doing, like Seth said, he's doing it justice. He's coming out with the suits. He's playing into the character,
right?
And he's doing it well. He's entertaining, but we know the real Seth Rollins. We've seen him in the past. We've seen what he can do in the ring. That gauntlet match too. That gauntlet match. That showed right there. He went almost an hour.
Yeah,
like, that was the last. I think it was like the last hour Raw almost. And it was amazing. So like when they let him go, he can definitely do it. I just think they're like you guys said, booking essentially. They're just not putting him in that position to say that he's overrated. That's why we're saying he's underrated or in the middle. Somewhere.
Yeah, you brought up like his feud with Will Ospreay and like Kenny Omega and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, he's the one guy to me, man, that like he's one of the major guys in WWE where I'm like, man, I would love to see him with the reins completely off and him able to wrestle a style outside of that cookie cutter paint by numbers WWE style of ring work. Like to see him completely unleashed, like to see him tap back into that Tyler Black stuff that kind of got worked out of him in NXT. Like, so I think like that to me makes him a little underrated, because I feel like not only in storyline, like some of the booking decisions they've made with him, but even in the ring work that WWE brings, they give him a ceiling there that I feel like he could just blast through if there wasn't these restraints on him.
Yeah, if you watch any like the documentaries and stuff on Seth, he had a lot of issues when he first got into NXT, specifically with Terry Taylor. That was the guy who was kind of Seth's handler down there, and they were wanting to restrict him so much that there was a couple times where he basically threatened to quit WWE because he was so frustrated with it. And Triple H was the one that kind of like talked him into sticking it out. It was Triple H and Joey Mercury of all people, who kind of were like the whisperers in Seth's ear that got him to stick it out. I'll go on. Another thing I want to put out is it is going to be a crying shame if somehow, some way we don't get Seth and Kenny Omega, while both guys are still kind of at the peak of their physical powers. I think that would be such an awesome match. They're, I don't know if they're the two absolute best, but they're two of the best in ring of this generation. They work such similar styles that I think it would be just a really incredible match.
Well, that led to my next question. Do you think Seth is satisfied doing this, or do you think he wants to go back to Tyler Black and doing
satisfied?
He's a WWE guy through and I think he's Randy Orton, man. I think he's I don't know the specific number, but I'm sure they're paying him very, very, very handsomely, and he seems to be one of the guys who does have a little bit more creative freedom to do what he wants to do with his character. Never say never in wrestling, that's for sure, but I can't see any scenario where he leaves. I think if we are going to get Seth and Kenny, it's going to have to be WWE and AEW actually working together on a show.
That's the one thing. That's one of the more heartbreaking truths to me in pro wrestling is I think he's WWE for life.
Yeah.
And he's the one. If I could have any wrestler from WWE debut and have matches in AEW, it would be Seth Rollins.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't even imagine. I mean, we got a little glimpse of Bryan Danielson, and we got that dream match of him and Kenny Omega. So we got to see what that looked like. But yeah, Seth, they're so similar too, in styles almost. It'd be one of the most fast paced matches.
Yeah.
You haven't seen. You're like, what the hell? You'd have to watch it like 10 times over just to like catch all the little nuances, I think, too, when it if it ever does happen anyway. And I mean, never say never. I mean, you never know. I mean, Kenny could jump ship. You never know.
Yeah.
We don't know these days.
Hey, listen, if Cody could do it, the door's wide open for anyone.
If Cody could jump, anybody could jump. That's for sure.
I agree. Anybody could jump, but Omega, I feel like Omega is kind of a career outside WWE guy.
Yeah,
I think he's planted his flag there. I think that's going to be his legacy. He's going to end up being the best wrestler to never go to WWE. I think that's not a bad spot to be in.
I would be just as shocked if Omega showed up in WWE as if Seth Rollins showed up in AEW. I would be just as legit shocked.
But again, that's what makes where we are right now with having an AEW and WWE great again, because we have dream matches that we don't think we're going to see. So if they ever do come to fruition, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. My last thing before we get out of here, do you guys think, is there any, I had said earlier that Seth Rollins' biggest moments have been tied to him being involved with factions or other groups of people. Is there a moment I'm forgetting that was solely on his shoulders that should be up there?
Mania with the briefcase.
No, he was with the Authority.
I think that SummerSlam 19 match I talked about where when he did beat Brock clean, he's got like kind of one definitive clean win over Brock that we've seen in the last, the last 6 or 7 years. So go back and watch that one. Cause like I said, everybody was against Seth. Him and Becky weren't a thing on screen anymore. He had already had the belt Brock had cashed in on him at Extreme Rules the month before. And that was Seth rolling in all by himself, and they gave him the clean win over Brock.
Yeah,
I would check that one out.
I would say too, like his feud with Triple H, when he was showing up. He showed up at
WrestleMania 33.
Yeah, WrestleMania 33, and that whole build up. So that was pretty cool because he was.
That was cool. Yeah, he crashed the show at Takeover in San Antonio. He said, "Show's called Takeover, right? Well, I'm taking this bitch over."
Yeah, because it was like the first time he seen not the first time, but it was like kind of like a big like main roster guy just showing up on.
And it was just like they had just gotten done with like a Rocket League commercial or something. It was all of a sudden this guy, at first it was like a fan had like stormed into the ring or something.
Yeah, he's like, huh? This is Takeover,
Seth than what we were used to because he was in NXT, so he got to be a little more looser than what we see in the main roster. Yeah. And look how fun that was.
Yeah, just for me, last thing is Seth Rollins cash in at Mania to me is a top 5 Mania moment. Easy. Maybe top 3.
Wow.
It's up there, dude. I had tears, man. I was just the Roman and I knew Seth had the briefcase, but the Roman and Brock match was so good that I had completely forgotten. It wasn't even in my mind. And then when his music hit, it was just, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then I had the sick feeling in my stomach. Once that initial shock wore off, I was like, all right, well, I can put 2 and 2 together. Seth's here to take the fall. So, Brock or Roman don't have to get pinned. But then sure as shit, he curb stomped Roman and won the belt. Like, it was incredible.
The thing I loved about it, that is a booking decision that WWE rarely makes. Where it's like one of those big that's a ballsy move. Like, you've given importance to the Money in the Bank. He held it for a while. Like you said, Seth, the match was so good that it was out of my mind. I wasn't, and I think partly is because I've been like conditioned by WWE to think like they would never do that at Mania. They would never have a cash in at Mania in the main event of that level. The guy's a heel. It's not going to happen. And then when that music hit and he came running down and at the end he's swinging the belt. Yeah. I was like, this is the type of shit that I've got goosebumps right now. Like it was amazing.
Awesome.
I just want to warn before we get out of here. I just want to warn our listeners that Seth he told us, and I'm going to let everybody know he has his Money in the Bank with him right now. So if you see him out anywhere,
he will
watch your back.
He could cash in on you.
If you're walking around with if for whatever reason, if you're walking around with a championship belt and you happen to see a white 2009 Toyota Tacoma driving by, watch your back.
That or if he sees you with a Chief J. Elite,
Chief J.
He might cash it on you.
All right, guys. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
just thanks again for having me on. This is always a blast. I enjoy
Yeah,
it.
we love having you guys on.
Definitely, man. Let everybody know where they can find you guys.
So on my social media, it's shoot social media. I don't got any kayfabe. I'll tell you guys to follow my wife Sheena at Chick Foley on Instagram, and then search for the Chick Foley Show. Basically, anywhere you find podcasts, hear from me, Marco, Sheena, and Jordan.
Awesome. So real quick before we get out, we started this last week. I have a little round robin that I haven't told anyone. This is just a quick round robin. No arguments, no discussion. Just give your picks when it's all said and done. At the end, rank of impact legacy to the business, the 3 Shield members from most impact to least impact. I'm going to say,
Wow.
man, as much as I hate to say it, and he's my favorite, I think impact to the overall wrestling business, not just WWE. I'm going to say Roman at the top, Mox number 2, Seth at the bottom.
Yeah, I agree. Roman is going to go down as one of the probably top 6 or 7 biggest stars WWE's ever had. 2 is Mox, because he was the first big guy to jump to AEW. I felt like he gave so much legitimacy to them as a new company. And then 3 is Seth. He's great, but I just think as far as legacy goes, he's going to come up just a hair short of the other 2. But just, it's crazy how amazing the Shield has been, that all 3 guys turned into megastars like that.
100%.
Yeah, I think I'm following suit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same order.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be different and go Mox, Roman, Seth.
Oh,
And going to AEW.
fucking AEW homer.
I feel like Roman before this last reign
Roman's
from
run is over, it might be different because he's just on an epic run right now.
Yeah, before this last title reign from Roman, I'd agree with you that Mox was number 1. But this run that Roman is on right now, it's just unseen in the modern era. It's unseen since the 80s. Man.
That's why I love it.
Like even in the Attitude Era, even Austin, that he was hot shotting the belt on and off. Like nobody has ever had this kind of winning streak going.
Yeah. His storylines crossing over to Young Rock on NBC. If you guys seen that clip with him saying "acknowledge me," like he never said that when he was a kid. Nope. And they're talking about wrestling each other when they were younger. Like that's
I just insane. Love the legitimacy it's bringing back to the title.
I think right now we are in, we talk about those eras. We had the Hogan era, we had the Stone Cold era. Then I would say the Cena era. I think we're in the Roman era.
Yeah.
Well said. Sneed, you didn't give your answer.
No, I did. Roman, Mox, Seth. I mean, I'm going. Even I'm not.
Sorry, Seth.
At the end of the day, Seth is just a really, really, really great WWE wrestler. He's not.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's super like impact as far as like business wide. You know what I mean? Like I said, Mox, the jump to AEW and then the success he had after the jump is what makes him so high. And then Roman with just this run he's on right now is.
I think
crazy.
You said it best, Seth, when you compared him to Randy Orton. That's dead on.
That was a great comparison. Yep. I never thought of it that way. Brilliant comparison.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this edition of the Turnbuckle Debate. Make sure you guys are following us at theturnbuckletavern.com for all things Tavern. We have a couple seconds left. Tom, go for it.
Turnbuckle Sessions every Friday. Me and Mike Belcaster, the OG Fit Kid, on Twitter and Instagram.
Sweet. That keeps her awesome.
Yeah, you sounded like a robot.
Nice.
Get it in again.
Go for it. Hurry.
Turnbuckle Sessions every Friday. Me and Mike Belcaster, the OG Fit Kid, on Twitter and Instagram.
Cut him.
He's done.